Now I'm very excited to welcome back one of our very own handicappers and podcasters in Mr. Nick Hub from Nick Hub Sports and the oddsbreakers.com. You can follow him on Twitter at Nick Hub Sports. Nick, man, how's your 2022 tweeting you?
Not bad, Kiev. Thanks for having me on, man. We got a couple things coming up here. I think there's a big game coming up next week, and college basketball is really picking up here.
Man, look at that. You got Assembly Hall right there in the background.
I'm up in the rafters right now, Kiev.
Yeah, I'm at the Kohl Center, so I can't wear my Badger hat because when you shoot 12% from 3-point land, you don't deserve me to wear your hat.
Yeah,
So
that's rough.
that's the way I look at it. It's like you gotta be better than that. Sorry, Badgers.
Definitely.
But we will hopefully rebound today, and we have a lot to talk about, man. And obviously, we have a Super Bowl. We have a first weekend of full-fledged college basketball without any NFL distractions. So that's going to be nice and fun to look into. And we're going to talk about some games, and we're even going to freelance a little bit here too, because I was able to prepare for a few of them. But it's just it's real important. So we'll find a game on Sunday for people to talk about. But obviously, lots going on with the Super Bowl. I'm just real quick. It's not like I need any handicaps or anything. Do you have any thoughts on the line? Where it ended up, which is about 4.5 and the total of 48.5.
Yeah, I mean, I saw some fours out there today too, and I guess 76% on the Rams. I don't have a side yet. I think the side that I'm leaning towards, and this is based on history, is the straight up winner in the Super Bowl. The line doesn't matter. I mean, they're 46-6-3. And the Bengals money line is very intriguing to me right now. Right now, it's a 170 plus 170. If you like the Bengals, you got to take the money line, take the points, and sprinkle on the money line. But I think that's the route that I'm leaning. I haven't done anything yet, and if the line keeps going towards the Rams, I'm just going to keep waiting for it.
Right. Yeah. I mean, there's a prop that says Bengals between 1 and 6 points for plus 450 too. I think that's interesting because you got to think if the Bengals are going to win this game, I doubt they blow them out. So it's a really interesting side. I think taking two sides like that, you get a big plus 400 is interesting. Now the thing is, like, how much do you want to avoid the Rams? I have obviously the 18-1 on the Bengals, but I'm going to hedge. I'm going to hedge that somehow. But there's probably going to be some live opportunities. I could just lay let's just say I get minus 175. I lay 12 units on the Rams. I'll get probably 6 units or 7 units each way, right? If I did that, so that's a possibility that I'm considering. But I also think, hey, maybe Cincinnati's up by 7. If they're up by 7 at some point in this game, you're going to have a way better opportunity to hedge. And personally, I don't think the line factors in either, Nick. I think that an alt line, it might make some sense. I was considering, maybe if the Rams, if I think that they're going to blow them out, I'll take a minus 6.5 and a minus 9.5 and a minus 13. I can just go bigger on the 6.5 and do that. I'm trying to figure it out myself, but I'll tell you this: the narrative is already a little bit defensive oriented because this has dropped a little bit, this total. So it is concerning to me. I normally I look at props and I say bet the overs early and the unders late. Well, I don't know if that's going to make sense this way. I don't know if people are just going to have that Rams narrative. I don't want to be on the same side as the public, so I'll tell you that.
No, I'm in the same boat there. The narrative's on the offensive line for the Bengals too, right? But they have 2 weeks to figure this out, and they've gotten this far in the playoffs that you would think that they're going to figure it out, get more on the edges, do more screen passes to Chase, and they're stud receivers. I mean, they have 3 good receivers. I just think they're going to game plan around to get on the edges more and not involve the offensive line as much. in this
I
game.
agree. I agree. I think that's the best way for them to look at it
Yeah.
is that short little screen pass. If there's a
Yep.
hole in the Rams defense, you saw that kill them. I mean, Deebo Samuel had a big run from a short little screen pass, right? And
Which he wasn't used nearly enough,
no, he wasn't.
which is
I mean,
very well documented, I think.
the Rams are only 28th in adjusted line yards. So I figure that,
Oh,
the run or those small little passes should do them justice. And so that's what kind of takes me off the Rams a little bit is they can be game planned around just like anybody.
yep.
Um, I think that if the Rams are great when they get you on your heels though, and I mean, you saw what happened to Jimmy Garoppolo when they knew they weren't going to run the ball. He got smashed. And
Yeah.
if that's the case, then Burrow can be in some trouble, and that's where you get the margin. That's what worries me.
Yeah.
But
It'll be
no,
interesting.
yeah, it's going to be really interesting. I have no lean on the total. I obviously on this podcast before I took the first half under 24. I'm sticking with that, and we're going to let the rest play off. But
Yeah.
good thoughts on the Super Bowl. Let's get it to what's important then, and that's college basketball, my man, because that's going to be paying the bills for the next few months for me
You
and
got it.
you, and it's going to be a lot of fun. But we have a big weekend, and there's some massive games coming up this weekend. But before we get into those games, Nick, I always like to go with stocks too low, stocks too high, buy low or sell high on some of these teams. And sometimes you get a play out of it. But I'll go first. Let's start with a buy low team. I'm going to say an obvious one, and it's LSU. LSU lost their point guard, right? Xavier Pinson. And he was out for a long time, but now he's kind of getting back in the lineup. Now LSU still doesn't have their feet wet. And man, they were down to Ole Miss by like 15 points at home. That game, I could not believe it. I was watching that game. I'm like, you got to be kidding me! Ole Miss beating them. Well, they end up losing by 4 points, and Ole Miss smelled blood, and they were able to get it. And Ole Miss is probably still celebrating after this. I cannot wait till they play Florida this weekend. But either way. I think that LSU, it's time they're finally in their schedule going to be healthy, and they are getting Vanderbilt, and they're going away. But this is going to be a massive get up spot for them. They got Texas A&M, which is going to be it's not a revenge game. They beat Texas A&M, but they're going to have to beat them again. Then they get Mississippi State. Then they have Georgia. Then they have South Carolina. Not one of those teams rank in the top 35 on KenPom or really any of the metric sites. So I think that they're going to go on a nice little run here, man.
Yeah, I like it. I mean, that defense is shut down. I mean, that's their length is very hard to compete with. So a team
Go ahead.
Yeah, a team that I like that they've been playing very well is Arkansas. They won 7 straight. They're just playing good basketball. They struggled in the beginning of the year, and just trying to pull up their schedule here to see who they have next. But they've been playing good basketball, and they have. Here we go. That's not popping up. But anyway, not to take up too much time on Arkansas, but they've just been playing good basketball.
No, I love Musselman there, man. I agree. I think Arkansas is going to have some nice spots coming up here too. And they started off the season rocky, and this is the kind of the time that Musselman comes back and makes some noise. They ripped off 7 wins in a row. They could definitely be a buy low team still, being that they're 31 on KenPom. They're a little bit higher last year, 18 on KenPom, right? So they're probably not to where they should be. And they didn't lose a lot of players from last year. They only lost a couple. So they're supposed to be better. They got Chris Likes now this year. And I agree with you on that one. Let's go on to the next one.
Real quick, the team that you were talking about, they beat LSU. They beat Texas A&M, who's been kind of hit or miss this season. The slate that you mentioned is pretty tough coming up for Arkansas. So that's really going to make them push them into the tournament, which they should be in automatically, I would think. But they got Mississippi State this weekend, who has a good offense. We'll talk about them a little bit later here. and Auburn, Bama, Mizzou. Mizzou, I can't figure out. I mean, they beat decent teams and then they get crushed.
Mizzou's on a little mid-season run because of
Yeah.
their embarrassment, but it's going to fade. And I'm trying to decide if it happens this weekend against Texas A&M. But you got to understand that Texas A&M is going to be a 9-point favorite here. Do you really want to bet on A&M as a favorite that big? I don't know.
Nope.
But A&M losing to South Carolina really makes me scratch my head. And
Yeah.
they're a solid team, but they're not that great. I was lucky to get the cover on Tuesday against Tennessee. Last second garbage basket got it for me, so I was pretty stoked about
That
that.
always helps.
Yeah. So next one I got is Miami of Ohio's by low, in my opinion, because they lost their best player in Delonte Brown. He's the third best scorer, but top rebounder, and he should be coming back soon. I'm thinking the next week or two, right? So I might not play them against Akron on Friday, Nick, but they have a back-to-back with Akron, right? We saw a lot of those last year with the COVID and everything, right? Back-to-back type games. Well, the second game, the worst team or the team that gets beat usually plays a lot better because they just played that offense. So I might be on Akron on Sunday, is all I have to say.
Well, my next team, going off the radar a little bit, is New Mexico State. I think they're a very experienced team. They've been playing very well in a bad conference, but they've only lost one game in their past. What do we got here? At least 10 games. They're another team that I look to in the tournament to hit the ground running and possibly upset a big name in that first round.
New Mexico State with Chris Johns there. Yeah, this team has been amazing, really, right? They've ripped off 11 out of 12.
Yeah.
Their only bit loss was the Sam Houston State, and then they beat Grand Canyon by a lot. And I lost I lost money on Grand Canyon, and then I was thinking about betting them again. Thank God I didn't, because they lost 2 more games, and one of those was New Mexico State. So agree with you there. They're, for some reason, they're just really sneaky right now, and
under the radar.
I'm excited to see them against Seattle, who's been ripping off a lot of wins. I think Seattle's got a second. They'll play Grand Canyon tonight, and then they got them. So I'm interested in that. So
they're doing everything they should. They're doing everything that St. Bonaventure should be doing, right?
Yeah, right.
St. Bonaventure. I mean, St. Bonaventure. They came in as a top 25 team and experienced, had everybody back, and just
their bench still stinks.
Put it together.
Their bench is terrible on St. Bonaventure, and that's the problem.
Them.
Yeah, that's what their crutch was last year too. They had like 5 or 6 guys that were great, but the rest of them were just really bad.
Yeah,
I have a buy low on Oklahoma. Now they're gassed from that Auburn loss, and I thought that they played better than what that score showed. They're within 10 points most of that game. I think that their loss to TCU, they're still gassed, but they're better than this. And I like Porter Moser. And I think this is kind of the time that Oklahoma's a buy on. They were injured too a little bit, and they're going to be getting some guys back.
I like it. A sell for me is Tennessee. They haven't been playing very well lately. They have a great defense, but they can't shoot, man. They go games that they just struggle and shoot 3-pointers. And they're just not a good shooting team. I just find it hard to believe to see them hanging, in a big game at the end of the year.
Man, Chris Barnes, fading him, I'll be your Huckleberry. No problem right there. Rick Barnes, I mean, sorry, not
yeah,
Chris
right.
Barnes. Yeah, he's terrible at the end of the season down the stretch, and he's also terrible in tournaments. So keep that in mind from an ATS perspective. And he's got South Carolina come up. I got a sell high team here, and we're going to sell high on TCU, and so this might even be a play for me on Saturday. They've been winning a lot of games, but they've been catching a lot of teams in fortunate situations and stuff. I think TCU is getting a little bit too overhyped themselves. So I'm going to be looking to possibly be on Oklahoma against TCU. Another sell high team I have is Utah State, Nick. Yeah, Utah State is they're number 34 on Ken Palm. I mean, I know the Mountain West is pretty good right now. San Diego State, Utah State, Wyoming, Boise, Colorado State, right?
Yep.
But they're not 34. They're not 34th in the nation, and they're going to have a tough game versus UNLV coming up, and they're going to have a tough game against Wyoming coming up. So I think it's time to sell a little bit on Utah State, who doesn't play a ton of defense, in my opinion.
Yeah. Well, speaking of defense, Kansas is another one that I would like to sell because of their defense. They have the offense, and it was very clear when they played a top-notch offense and good rebounding team like Kentucky last Saturday at home, got crushed.
Yeah.
So
that was off. That was just I took Kentucky first half because they're a great first half team.
Yeah.
But I could not believe how they put it on them, and Kansas could not get back.
Not at home.
Not at the Fog, man. What the hell?
That was nuts. So that was impressive by Kentucky.
It sure was. And my last one, I'm going to go with a sell high team in Utah Valley.
Okay.
I know I went way under the radar here, but they only rank 112th on Ken Palm, and they're just still getting too much credit, in my opinion, for their BYU overtime win. If you look, and this is funny, it's also in the WAC here. Utah Valley hasn't beaten anybody with a pulse, and being 112th on Ken Palm in this really makes me scratch my head. I mean, what was their best win was BYU, but their next best win was 142nd Washington, right? And they're not a good team. And they've lost to Cal Baptist, who's number 231. They lost to Abilene Christian 171. They lost to Seattle, which everyone is, but that's still, they rank 125th. Southern Utah, they are not 112th in the nation. So really considering betting against them tonight, but the line already adjusted. So I'm watching it. That's all I got. Any else?
Yeah, I'll throw one more in to sell Monmouth. They made me a lot of money in the beginning of the season. They beat Pittsburgh, Yale, or two good wins. Cincinnati they beat. And since they started tournament play, they have been struggling. I mean, they lost 4 of their last 7 games in conference. So they're just not playing good basketball. So I'll sell on them. Maybe not high, but I'm selling on them. I probably won't play them the rest of the year.
There you go, Monmouth, man. It's nice to know when to pivot off some of these teams because you understand the team, you understand when they start to get a little bit overvalued, and at that point they're probably gassed anyway, right? That's the time you need to transition off of them for sure. Oh, great stuff, man. Love this segment. I think it's an important segment to do every week, and I think it's important. I think it's important that people try to find buy signs and sell signs on teams all the time, because you're not going to win against a spread unless you do this type of exercise. You have to understand what teams have and what they have to offer. Auburn, man, I'll tell you, that's one team I want to sell, but they just I think they just want to win by 20 every time. I think it's in their heads. They're on a mission this year, so I'm scared. I'm scared to say sell high on Auburn.
And when they're at home, my God, when was that last night they played Bama?
Oh yeah, 100-80. Oh Jesus Christ! Well, that gives you a little hint on when
2 nights ago, Wednesday.
Yeah, it was Tuesday night, and
they all run together.
That gives you a little hint. That final score gives you a hint of the direction I'm going to go with when we talk about Kentucky Bama. But let's go into Friday. Let's start with the Friday game. We got Creighton versus Seton Hall. Seton Hall's laying 4 points here, probably at home. And the total's about 136. I think this is a great spot for Seton Hall. They had some rough patches, but that was because Bryce Ayton's been injured. Well, Bryce Ayton should be back by now. He's questionable from the concussion, but it's looking, signs are pointing that he's going to play. Now, they had a bunch of injuries throughout the last 4 or 5 weeks. You remember how good Seton Hall was towards the end. The thing I like about Seton Hall is partially their height. I mean, Seton Hall
Mm-hmm.
ranks 11th in height. They got some very tall guys that's going to mess up Creighton. I mean, if you look at Creighton, they're not exactly a team that chucks up a lot of threes. They only shoot 30.9% from three. They're terrible at 3 points, but they score most of their points down low in the paint, right? What's important is that they're going to be facing a tall team now that can defend it in Seton Hall. And I think it's a good fade spot for Creighton because they just beat UConn. UConn shot 29%
Mm-hmm.
this game on Tuesday. 29% at home. Now they're going their second road game against a Seton Hall team that needs this win. I'm going to be on Seton Hall, buddy.
Yeah. The Blue Jays normally known for their offense, right? They have the number one defense in the Big East. But you're right. Seton Hall has the huge advantage on rebounding, and they'll win the turnover battle too. They're Creighton turns the ball over too much. 22.8% of the possessions they turn the ball over.
Yeah.
So I'm
terrible.
with you there with that play.
Awesome, man. Good stuff. I'm glad that you are on my side on that one. Let's move on to Saturday then. Unless you have a Friday game. Do you have a Friday game?
I don't. No,
right,
I don't.
All right, let's move into Saturday then. Now you picked a couple. Why don't we start with one of yours?
All right, we'll start with Illinois and Indiana. We got a Big Ten matchup here. Illinois is coming off the big win last night against your boys that shit the bed from three, right?
Had to remind me.
I have this one coming out as a total. I'm going to be looking at the total in this one. Should be around 135. These are the top two defenses in the Big Ten. Both teams are excellent at defending inside the arc. They're first and second in defending inside the paint or inside the arc as well. 9th and 10th in shooting three-pointers on offense. So there's not going to be a lot of points coming from beyond the arc in this one. Second and third defending the arc. So that just goes, to my last point there. And Illinois is a slow-paced team. They rank 251st in game pace, 299th in average possession length. If it's 135, I'll be on the under in this game.
Yeah, 135 is what Ken Pom predicts, and I can't disagree with that because Indiana is just only winning with defense. When they don't have a good defensive showing, they'll lose, and they realize that, and they stopped Penn State, held them to 57 points, and they stopped Maryland to 55 points. So this is a big game for both teams. If Illinois didn't look so good against Wisconsin, and which really looked bad, Wisconsin shooting 12% from three, I would have been more inclined to be on Illinois. But now that they had that good showing against Wisconsin, that's not going to help where the line's going to come out. And you're probably going to have Illinois as a favorite. I was expecting maybe Indiana being a favorite, but now you're probably going to see Illinois as a favorite, and I'm not going to like that situation.
It should be. And I think the game against Michigan, was it last week, maybe 2 weeks ago, at Assembly Hall, Michigan came in and upset Indiana on their home court where they were undefeated. I think they were like 10-0. So I think that'll affect the line too, with Illinois probably being favored.
Yeah, I think so. I think
Just
so
that
as
one
well.
game.
And I got to tell you, man, Trace Jackson Davis, he can guard coffee better than anybody from Wisconsin can. So I think that, after Illinois shooting all that well the last couple games, it's time for them to fade a little bit, which means the under is maybe a little bit safer. All right, let's go to a game that I circled here. And let me just quick pull it up here. Baylor versus Kansas.
But before you get started, this is an excellent slate for Saturday, isn't it? There's so many good games.
It's fantastic, man. And
Yeah.
it's perfect for the non-football weekend, right? I mean,
definitely.
Purdue, Michigan's going to be fun. You have Gonzaga versus BYU late at night. Don't forget about that, man. You have a massive game where BYU is going to, try to keep up with the Zags. That usually doesn't work out so well. And then we're talking about these two big ones: Kansas, Baylor, Kentucky, Bama. USC, Arizona is going to be fun. Villanova versus UConn, Auburn versus Georgia, Duke, North Carolina. Jesus,
Yeah,
man, it
that's
keeps
always
coming.
good, right?
Oh, it's always good, man. And we'll see what happens here. North Carolina is a different team when they are at home. But let's
Yeah.
move on to the Kansas versus Baylor here. So here's the thing with Kansas. They're a little bit injured, and they're missing one of their key components as well in Agbaji, right? He didn't play against Iowa State, but they ended up winning. But he got a little bit banged up against Kentucky. I think he's got COVID or something. But his presence is going to dictate a lot what I think about this game. You have to assume that Kansas is going to be probably close to pick 'em against Baylor at home, right? Does that make sense? But I mean, Ken
Yes,
Palm's
it
got to pick
does.
them. Yeah. What bugs me about Kansas is what you said. They don't play good defense. Baylor does play a lot of good defense. The problem with Baylor is they're still a great team from what was left over last year, but they're not as good as they were last year. And everybody's gunning for Baylor, and they have some injuries too. So if Flagler's out, LJ Cryer's out for Baylor as well. If those two team kids play, and even with Agbaji playing, I'm probably just going to leave this thing alone. Probably going to lean to the under a little bit because I think Baylor is not going to want to run with Kansas at the Fog. I think Baylor is going to play smart and they're going to drain the clock. Frustrate them a little bit. That's the way to beat them. I mean, Kentucky did a lot of that, right? When they played. Kentucky versus Kansas only had 67 possessions that game. So the Kentucky played them right. So I think that if Scott Drew is smart, he's going to do that. So I'm going to lean to the under right now. But if one team gets their guys back and the other team doesn't, I'll probably be leaning that team. Yeah. So any thoughts on this one?
Yeah, I think Kansas is going to come in very pissed off that they shit the bed last Saturday and have a much better game. Like I said, Kansas defense has been holding them back all year, but this is a much better matchup for them because the Bears like to shoot a lot of three-pointers, and they do thrive. I mean, they're shooting 37.5% in conference, but that's the strength of Kansas. They're number one in the conference at defending the arc, and Baylor should win the turnover battle in this one. That's an advantage towards them. Again, there's not many turnovers for Kansas. They rank 10th in the conference in that stat. So this is a tough one for me too. I don't know if I'll be playing this one, but I think Kansas will play a lot better than they did last week. That's for sure.
I had to bring this one up because it is a big game this week, and it's going to be fun to watch. Sometimes,
Definitely.
it's better to not bet a game and watch it so you can enjoy your college basketball
Sometimes
without
it's
some
more
bias.
enjoyable, especially if
Yeah.
you're not winning it. That
Oh
seems to be a
man,
lot more
when
enjoyable when
you're not winning a bet, you switch that thing. There's
Yep.
don't waste your time. Check the score
Yeah.
later.
Right.
Let's move on to a massive game: Kentucky versus Alabama. Kentucky's looking like a road favorite here at number 3 on Ken Palm. Alabama +3. I got to tell you this, man. Alabama, for some reason, is beating the big teams, and I don't know how they're doing it. As long as they're not named Auburn, I guess they're doing a fantastic job beating the big teams. But they're going to be at home again, and they just beat Baylor at home. Baylor was a little bit injured. They kept it within 4 points against Auburn at home, which Auburn might be the best team in the nation. I think they're number 1 or 2. Gonzaga, Auburnish, right? Duke, yeah, they're really good. And they beat Houston when Houston was healthy, which is amazing. Houston, fantastic team, and it's too bad Houston got injured. And they beat Gonzaga. It's like what they beat the number 1 and number 2 team at KenPom. It's like, and they're playing Kentucky. I think that's going to bring some bets their way. But what I like is the over here, right? You mentioned about defense. Well, Kentucky's got a decent defense, but Kentucky's on the road here, and Alabama is really going to be pressing the pace. What's funny about Alabama is a lot of time when conference play happens, the teams slow down. Alabama speeds up. Their adjusted tempo is 71.6 possessions per game and whole, and 73.6 in conference. They're running in conference, right? Kentucky, obviously, massive shooting team. They are 30th in effective field goal percentage. They're great at offensive rebounds. They're going to get their own rebounds and clean it up. They rank 4th in adjusted efficiency. I think that this is just one of those games that they have to run. Kentucky's going to have to run with Alabama this game. You're going to get a total of around 156-ish, 157, because there's going to be some contrarians hitting it. When I notice is the total is close to right, and then contrarians go under, which it doesn't take much to go under in many cases. But in this situation, some of these totals can go up to the 180s, 190s with these teams. So I'm actually going to be a public type of better here. And I'm probably going to grab the over. I think it's going to be a lot of possessions, and Kentucky can play fast as well. Any thoughts?
I might be with you with the public too. I have written down here fast pace in all capital letters. Yeah. So it will be an up and down game. I am very confused with Alabama this year. Why do they shoot so many 3-pointers? They're second in the conference in shooting 3-pointers, yet they only shoot 28.3%.
It's weird. It's weird, but their offensive rebounding is first in the conference.
Yeah,
and that's
I was
going to
bring that up. Definitely, that's the big advantage for them. The problem is they're going up against Kentucky, who ranks first in defensive rebounding. So that'll be a pretty good matchup. See who wins the boards there. There won't be as many second chance points for Bama in this one. But,
there's not. But Bama's defense is bad, and when they beat teams, it's partially the reason the team just didn't shoot that well. Bama is an offensive focus, and they're just going to run as fast as possible, in my opinion. My number is 161, so just keep that in mind. If that thing is under 159, I think it's a play.
I like it.
All right, my man. What else do we have? Don't you have another Saturday game?
Yeah, I threw in here Mississippi State and Arkansas. So I have this one kicking off at Arkansas favored by 3. This is the number 1 defense in the SEC with Mississippi State, and the number 2. I mixed that up, didn't I? The number 1 defense and the number 2 offense in the SEC. Mississippi State scores almost all of their points inside the arc. They have no perimeter game whatsoever. They won't be able to spread out the ball against this defense. Arkansas is number 2 in defending outside the arc or inside the arc. And Mississippi State struggles defensively. They rank 10th in defending 3-pointers and 11th in defending 2-point shots. Arkansas is 47th in the nation in possession length and will most certainly look to push the tempo in this one. It'll be hard for the Bulldogs to keep up with their slower game, especially without a perimeter game. So I look towards Arkansas to cover this spread, and I have it coming out here -3.
Fading Mississippi State, no problem here. They got that nice win after the Texas Tech. I was on Texas Tech last Saturday. They beat South Carolina, so they're feeling good. Another away game. Arkansas, much better team, in my opinion. What sucks is that Ken Pom shows 3. This spread's not going to be 3. This is going to be close to 5. So you're gonna have to pay for this. But I agree with it. I think I would lay up to 7 with this team, in my opinion. I think Arkansas is clearly the play right here. I love that game, man. Great job picking.
Yeah, that was one of my buy teams. They're just playing well. And you're right. Mississippi State's so one-dimensional, and they don't have they're just not a complete team.
No, not at all. Sunday, we have some big games. We have Houston at Cincinnati. We got Maryland at Ohio State. We have Providence at Georgetown. I'm a Big Ten guy, so I'd like to start with Maryland versus Ohio State. And I'll wing it with you. The thing about I wanted to bet Ohio State tonight, but they got canceled because of weather. I was going to lay the.
Did it get canceled? Because I had them marked down too.
Oh,
Okay.
dude, Iowa is so overrated. Absolutely, I was going to
Yeah.
play Ohio State minus the 4.5. I was waiting for. It was at 5, but obviously moot point now. But now
Yeah.
they skip it, and they're going to be playing Maryland here. Ohio State's going to be a big favorite here. It's going to be probably around 9 or 10 points, in my opinion. Maryland's a weird team. They've had some, they've had some pretty good luck away. But part of their luck is when teams are just missing their shots here. They had some luck with Northwestern. They won in overtime. I mean, Northwestern did everything, and Northwestern's not a great team by any means. They're probably a buy-on team, but they're not a terrible team. But the way they lost the last couple games against Indiana, they lost by 2 to Michigan State. They fought really well, but that was also at home. I don't like them away at all, man. I think that they're a fade team when they're away. So what worries me is that they're not going to score a lot of points. What I really like here, just kind of looking at the numbers now,
Yeah.
is that their pace is a lot slower in Big Ten play. They're only 18.1 seconds per possession in general, 18.9 in conference. You look at Ohio State, they actually play slow. They've ran a few times, but they play slow. They play 18.5% or 18.5 seconds per possession, 18.7 in the Big Ten. I'm seeing under here. I look and it's going to be a massive 142. Forget it, man. This is going to be one of those games that Maryland's going to want to slow down, and Ohio State's going to do what they can to stick with it. Ohio State not the greatest shooting team, effective field
Yeah.
goal percent only 244%, or ranking 244, 48.2%. So I'm looking at the under on this one.
You're 100% right about the pace. 248th for Maryland and 265th for Ohio State. Both teams shoot a lot of threes the way it looks, but they defend the three pretty well too. So they're going to have to lean down low, which will definitely favor Ohio State in this one. But if the line is 10, this is at Ohio State. I would probably lean towards Ohio State in this one, and
Yeah.
and lean towards the under too.
I'm gonna lean towards Ohio State. I don't want to lay big digits on teams that are, I wouldn't say bad. Maryland's not a
Yeah,
bad team. They're probably a little bit underrated personally at
yeah,
90th on Ken Palm. That's underrated. You can't tell me Utah State is 34th and they're 90th, right? But
right.
you can definitely look towards the total here. So I'm going to definitely go with the total here on the under. That's all I have, man. Any other games or anything you want to throw out there?
I think we hit a bunch there. Yeah, we're good. We're good. Unless you want to throw another one in there, we can wing it.
Well, hey, I'm just going to say lay it with Gonzaga.
Like,
Well, here's the thing. They're
it's
playing
BYU. Yeah.
BYU is not number 28. They
No.
just lost to Santa Clara and Pacific. All right. And those were away games. And then they're going to get the Dons on Thursday, which I wish they beat Pacific because I probably would be betting the Dons tonight. But they're probably going to beat up the Dons. But then they have Gonzaga on Saturday, a comeback against Gonzaga at home. Forget it, man. Gonzaga is way better than this BYU team. It's going to be like Ken Palm has it an 8-point spread. It's not going to be 8 points.
No.
It's going to be 12 points, but I'm still probably going to lay it with Gonzaga. That's the only one I'm going to throw out there.
Yeah. No, I was going to say closer to 15, which you nailed it.
Yeah.
Texas Tech's playing well, right? They're going up against West Virginia. Ken Palm has it at only a 5-point game. I find that hard to believe.
It's because they suck on the I think they're not good.
They're not
away.
as good on the road, but confuses me that they beat Baylor on the road.
Yeah, they did beat that Baylor team on the road, but Baylor has just started ailing at that moment in early January.
That's true.
Kansas State was a nice win on the road.
Yeah.
I'll tell you this. I don't want to go against Texas Tech. That's for sure. And West Virginia is definitely not as good as what they are. But I'll tell you this, man. West Virginia losing 6 games in a row. Bob Huggins has to be up this team's what. They had a great game against Baylor. They only lost by 4 points at Baylor. So maybe people would say it's a buy-on sign at West Virginia. I'm probably staying away from this one.
Let me bring this game up, Kiev. Iowa State and Texas. Now,
all right.
I have a stale taste in my mouth from last weekend.
Are you kidding me? That was my big. I went 8-2, and I should have been 9-1 on Saturday. But my biggest play was lost. It was Texas, and they're up by 15, and they freaking win by 1 with
couldn't believe it.
5 minutes left. They scored 1 point with 5 minutes left. Couldn't believe it.
Everything was going Tennessee's way. Everything. The last 5 minutes. I couldn't believe they gave up that lead. I thought that was a lock, and
yeah, it was my biggest play, so I thought it was like the closest thing to a lock, right?
Yeah.
Well, so I mean, what does this mean? Texas is going to be at home again, I think.
Yeah.
I don't want to bet against Texas is one of the best home teams as well. And Chris Beard's probably up these kids, if the way they lost to Texas Tech on Tuesday.
Oh yeah, they had no shot there, right? With that crowd going nuts, with Beard coming in, they had no shot winning that game. I didn't play it, but just seeing the atmosphere there, it was.
I played it. I played Tech. I played Tech for sure. But it was. Thank you. But man, Texas can be a 6-point favorite here. And then Tennessee is just such a bad road team, and they let that happen. Iowa State can be sneaky. They can be very, very sneaky. They snuck a win against Creighton on the road. They beat Xavier and Memphis on neutral courts when Memphis wasn't as injured. Since then, they've been great on the road, though. So that's a stay away from me.
Iowa State, they have 2 good Big Ten transfers. Brockington from Penn State and Culture from Minnesota. Yep. So they're the 2 experienced, the good additions to that squad. I think that makes a big difference in their season so far.
It really does. And they were like a big fade team for me eventually coming after that massive run they did. But I was scared. I didn't fade them really much, and I should have. They lost to Oklahoma bad. I think I lost. I think I was on Iowa State that game too. It was just one of those situations. They're a team that I missed out on pretty much. So I'm going to stay away from that one probably.
Yeah, they're not doing too well in conference play. They're below 500 the way it looks.
Yeah, they need a big win here.
They do.
All right, my man, we're out of time. Where could our listeners get your great information and plays?
All right. Well, you can always find me on the oddsbreakers.com. You can find all of my college basketball picks. You can subscribe there. Also, Executing the Edge is my podcast, and I've been doing that. I can't believe, Kev, this will be the 11th week I'm doing it. I release it every Friday morning. I remember when I talked to you, like, how should I put this thing together? And now it's coming together pretty nice. I have some good guests. I try to get at least one new guest on each week, and obviously there'll be a bunch of repeats like yourself and a couple other guys. But I'm having fun with it, and check it out. It'll be on every Friday morning, sometimes the afternoon, depending on what's going on that Friday. But check it out. Executing the Edge podcast on the Odds Breakers. And then my website at sportspickhub.com. You can find my picks, subscriptions, different subscriptions. I'm also on sportscapping.com. And I want to bring this up, Kiev, because this will be important for next week. I'll be hosting the Sports Wagering University. We're going to do a prop cast for the Super Bowl. So we're going to have different segments of we're going to do – I don't know exactly if we're going to throw in like the Gatorade or anything like that crazy, but we'll do the player props, the offense, the defense, the important props that you're going to want to tune in for that, because we'll have a bunch of good guests on like Kiev. So that's what's coming around the corner here.
All right, man. I'm excited for that. Yeah, love me some props, and we're going to be talking about props on this show, and we're going to be talking about and I can't wait to get into it with you. And obviously, Nick Hub, great baseball handicapper. If you want to get his plays, get to the oddsbreakers.com and sign up with Nick. He did a fantastic job in baseball last year. Baseball's a tough nut to crack, and Nick was just absolutely fantastic. So make sure you check us out and check Nick out at the Odds Breakers. Thanks for coming on, Nick.
Absolutely, Kiev. Appreciate it, man.